Well, good day. Good day. Good day. I guess this is kind of like a Queen's address. I'm Benny Wallington from 101 Tokens. And each year, for the past 5 years, I've done a rundown of my 101 Tokens year, which if you've never heard of it, if you're coming at this fresh, 101 Tokens is a way or a system to change your drinking habits for the better, hopefully, most of the time. And over the years, I've noticed a few trends, some positive, some negative, which we'll get into, which just, old habits just won't fucking die. But what I want to talk about, actually, probably give you a quick rundown. So 101 Tokens originated because I was a bit of a fat mess in London, just getting pissed on the couch on the 3rd of January 2016. And was just about to go to the pub for the third day in a row. I just lost my job. And yeah, that's kind of when you hit rock bottom. And so I decided that I wasn't going to go to the pub and I was going to write some rules, which I called the 101 Tokens rules. And essentially, instead of drinking 5 or 6 nights a week like I was, I would only drink 2 nights a week. So if you're good at maths, 52 weeks times 2 nights a week would be 104, but that's not fucking catchy, is it? So I decided 101 Tokens was going to be my jam. And so essentially the way the system works, and the way the system still works, is every time you drink alcohol, the next day you'd say whether it was worth it or not, yay or nay. And basically you're working out the patterns and a few other cool things about your habits, people you hang out with, the places you go, the food you eat, accompanying booze, etc., etc. And so since that first year where we were using a Winnie the Pooh calendar, we've had thousands of people download an app. I've coached a bunch of people privately, which has been super rewarding and frothy. Ironically, last year I focused on a few other projects, so it was probably one of the more slower years with 101 Tokens, but we still had some epic results. And I'm just going to keep doing this because the stats don't lie. Anyway, so how I normally do it is I'll go through each month and I'll just give a little shout out to what happened. So actually, my favorite thing about doing this and actually putting things in an app, or if you decide you want to get a Winnie the Pooh calendar, it's pretty straightforward. And for anything, it doesn't have to be boozing. If you've got an issue with Netflix, which I had to play with this year, coffee, sex, porn, any of those vices, you can use the same system and it works. Anyway, so let's get on to January. January, I only spent 2 tokens. One was a yay, one was a nay. And the nay I'll start off with, started out like a very good day. I actually hit another undefeated, I think it was about 73 not out in our annual cricket match with the boys down in Sydney. And I'm on about 200 and something not out, as they still haven't got me out in 4 years. So big win there. But I did something that I've been doing for over a decade, and I went to this shit place called Bondi Hotel in the middle of Bondi, and that's where I always get into trouble. Whether I get kicked out, punched, or something shit happens. Thankfully, I don't think either of those happened, but I got so pissed that I don't really remember it, and it was, it ruined a really good day. And that tends to happen being out in the sun all day and being victorious while playing cricket, is you tend to over-celebrate. So anyway, great day, fucked it at the end. And the yay was actually occurred a little bit earlier in January, when my friends and I got together for 3 days to create an online program in response to the Aussie bushfires. And we ended up calling it Rise Up, and we cheersed it with a couple of beers down at the beach at the end, and that was just like the most beautiful way to finish up a really awesome but intense 3 days, which then went on to, I guess, take 120 different people through that program throughout the year, which was freaking sweet. So yeah, February, I spent 5 tokens. All of them were yays. Good job, me. The first one I want to chat about is when I did a comedy routine in front of 120 people. 120, that number has come up twice in the first 2 months of 2020. Anyway, in front of 120 people, sold out show. And I bombed and got booed at one point, which was kind of hilarious. Longest 5 minutes of my life. Moral of the story, don't be cocky. And I guess the interesting thing about that was that I didn't drink beforehand because I didn't want to sort of throw myself off, but I did have a really epic, delicious beer after. Some of the comedians sort of came over and who'd done it before and gave me some advice, and it was just really cool to watch. And I ended up watching my mate Ian, who features quite a bit through the year, go on to win it. Or he wasn't my mate then, I only just met him. He went on and won the comp, so that was sweet. And also at the end of that month, I had a few beers for my buddy Josh's launch for a big bike ride. So he was meant to be riding a solar panel adorned, I haven't used that word before, but hey, it sounds good. Solar panel adorned bike around Australia, obviously because of the COVIDs and all that stuff, that got cancelled. But it was a really beautiful moment to watch my mate just absolutely thriving with like some really just super quality group of humans getting together. So I wanted to throw that one in there. March, 3 tokens, all yays. Big shout out to Emma and Sam's wedding. Interestingly, I thought I had a bit of a chest cough. Everyone's like, I've got a cold, I've got the thing. So I was keeping socially distant, and I also didn't drink as much as I normally would at a wedding. So there was kind of a benefit to having the chest cold, but I probably shouldn't have been drinking with a chest cold or potentially COVID. But hey, you know what? I had a few, and it was good, and it was fun, and we were cutting up the dance floor, and it was radical. Shuckers. April 4. And by the way, any of this stuff that I say, I'm not condoning these activities. The whole point of 101 tokens is, and part of the learnings that we've had over the past kind of 5 years with all these different people going through it and sharing stories, is that we have this kind of like guideline. We do have a program that we develop with a psychologist, but they're all just guidelines. Like nothing's gospel, right? We all fuck up, especially when it's with something like drinking, where, I probably drank for Australia from 15 to 30. So they're ingrained. But I'm proud to say that after 5 years, after the first year it was profound, but after 5 years I'm still finding improvements all over the place. April 4, I had my first Zoom party, first Zoom beers for my buddy Matt's birthday, which actually coincided with the end of his session for Rise Up. This was a 4-week program. And so we had all these beautiful humans online, and then some of us drank teas and kombuchas and waters, and then I had a cheeky beer, which was kind of nice. Wasn't a massive fan of Zoom beers apart from that, but that was a good one. And then my nay was actually just what I've noticed mainly with my drinking over the years has been when I drink 2 days in a row. That's usually where I get tripped up. And so I noticed as a pattern this year, again, same thing. Even if it was one beer the next day, which I only had one mango, it was because I'd had quite a few the day before, which was a yay, but not to push beyond my limits. And then the next day, you don't need to have that fucking beer. Like, what was the point? And so I had it, and I resented the beer. So it was more about the moment and being like, I didn't need that. Anyway, good reflection. Don't do it again, right? Probably will. May, 4 tokens. So I went to my first lockdown party. So it was kind of like the restrictions semi-lifted. We could go and hang, and ended up in this beautiful property in Noosa, which is in the sunny coast. And it was kind of like kicked off now in reflection, this relationship that I've built with the Sunshine Coast, which is a couple of hours north of where I live on the Goldie. So I had a big shout out to Elliot and Sunny for that invite. And it was epic fun. And the nay was actually the second night of the lockdown party, which was frothy all the way through. Jackie, my partner, went to bed. Most people went to bed, and then I decided to have another half bottle of wine. Even though I knew I was coherent enough, so I hadn't drunk that much, to not have the fucking wine. But I did, because I was having frothy conversations, and the next day I woke up and went, dickhead. So nay. By the way, when you have nays, some people can get offended. They'll be like, oh, you know, all the nays are with me. It's one of two things. It's either your fault or your friends are shit, right? So most of the time it's your fault. I'd like to think anyway, depending on what your friends are like. I'm just making a huge generalization. Anywho, on to June. So the yay was the first dinner out in public and having a beer brewed by the restaurant. So it was their brewed beer, which is nice. I feel like that adds to the culture. Was the brewed beer awesome? It wasn't fantastic, but it added to the kind of overall froth of the night. Interestingly, what I've written down here is that years ago I was writing, probably probably the second year of 101 tokens. I was writing about 1 beer tokens. I was like, I don't know about these, but I was finding some beauty in the fact of just having 1 beer, you know? I used to go to restaurants by myself sometimes, so I'd have 1 beer by myself. Is that sad? Hard to say. 1 beer. Now the interesting statistic is that the majority of my nights out, or majority of my nights, usually date night with my partner Jackie, are 1 beer or 1 wine. So I've kind of flipped the script. So that's kind of nice to reflect on. And my nay for this month, or the one I want to highlight, was I bought this 4-pack of these shitty sour beers, and I'm not calling out any brands here, but they were terrible. And I sat around and drank all of them just cause my mate was here and we sat in his hotel and we were back in the sort of lockdown mode, so we couldn't really go do anything. So just, yeah, it was fun. It was a frothy conversation, but the beers soured the occasion. This shit writes itself. Okay, so July, 5 tokens, all yays, go Benny. I'm just going to say that this was again the weird phase here where we live with lockdowns and crossing borders and stuff, and we were allowed to go to a certain dwelling with a certain amount of people. And I went to an Airbnbs because they'd sort of, I guess there was stacks of really good Airbnbs going for a bit cheaper. And so we got this kind of mansion spa house about an hour south of where we live, and went with all my good friends. And actually the first night, probably because it was themed, we had competitions each night we split the groups into three groups. Yep. Good English here, Benny. Yep. Memory is coming back. And the first night was Mexican themed, and we probably had a bit too much tequila. But I think, and this is my thoughts around this, I was with my mates who are all performance coaches, ex-athletes, chiros, mindset, yoga teachers, all this stuff. And we were doing some pretty fun activities, and some good, like we were doing some getting in the pool, cold water, breath work. We were in a fucking spa place, so it had saunas, and all that kind of jazz, and hot tubs. So, I mean, if you're gonna drink all the tequilas, perhaps go and be in a space with fucking high vibe legends and epic recovery tools. But when are we ever gonna have that all the time? Maybe you will one day. Work hard, work towards it, actually work smart, and maybe you will live in a delicious spa bath setting at some point. Maybe you already do. Ripping. Good on you. Anyway, August, 7 tokens. Now my yay was I actually prototyped a podcast. There's a lot of stuff. I was like a big blabberhead on the internet a few years ago. I think I was just posting videos for the fun of it, and there's a fair bit of shit in there. Some really good stuff. But I've kind of been a bit more reserved. So this one was with Ian, the comedian. Also interesting that Ian is in the word comedian. And yeah, we recorded a podcast, which was a trial podcast. I sent it to my email list, which 101 Tokens email list. Big shout out. Most of the reason I do this recording is for you guys. And I love y'all. And yeah, it was so much fun, but maybe didn't get the feedback that we wanted to go, okay, this is worth putting on the internet. So yeah, that was fun. Super sick. We were drinking Bolters, so we're having a few jokes about, the boys on the Gold Coast. So we're drinking local beers even though they sold out. And the nay was fucking Ian. Ian, you swindled me, mate. You bloody swindled me. So we went and we had Sunday beers, just a Sunday sesh. It was one of the first, again, like through those waves, it was like, okay, we can go back to the pub, sick. Obviously social distancing. And yeah, we had 5 beers in the sun. It was one of those, you're sitting with your mate and the sun's delicious and, there's good looking people around and you're just sitting there and you haven't been able to do that in a while. And you're like, oh, do you want to have another one? You're like, oh, it'd be rude not to. Those kind of sayings, or yeah, one for the road. And then you have 5 pints, I'm pretty sure. Delicious beers is their little brewery down at Nobby's. But yeah, fuck me for the next couple of days. And that's the whole point. The next day you say, was it worth it? So maybe the whole situation was epic, but feeling like a fuckwit the next couple of days, not good. Nay. Yeah. unless, here we go, here's the kicker. And this is, I'm starting to talk about performance partying, performance drinking. So watch this space, that's coming. I don't see the problem if you haven't got anything to do the next day in having a bit more of a belter. So perhaps those 5 beers would have been good if I was on holidays and I didn't have to, I'm pretty much never on holidays, I'm always doing something on the email, but the next day I could wake up and I could go do my spa therapies and all that kind of thing to get my head back in the game, or I could just go and have a long walk on the beach or do my breath work and do all my activities. But when you go and do that, when you didn't plan it and you've got responsibilities the next day, that's nay. That's nay. And if you can do that, and speaking to people who drink all the time like I used to be able to do that all the time. 5 pints, pretty standard, half bottle of wine at home. And then I'd be able to get up and I thought I was operating at an optimal state as a pisshead. It was probably like pisshead optimal. So maybe some of you guys are pisshead optimal. But that just doesn't happen when you're not drinking as much. And if you are drinking that much, then that is a problem and you're not anywhere near optimal. Anyway, enough of that, but enjoy yourself. September, yay, was, I did a program with Syntropic World. Definitely check them out. They're awesome. And my team that were going through the program lined up some beers because Rabbit Bartholomew, ex-world champion surfer, massive frother, environmentalist, legend, was running for politics. And so we all went to hang out and running for politics. So this is why, if you ever saw my project Vote for the Planet, I wasn't really the guy talking about what was going on in the politics. I was doing other stuff. Anyway, he was running for the local seat here as a politician. Got it out in the end. And so we got to go have some beers and just have a yarn and talk with him about what his plans are. It made me dislike politics even more, but that's another story. Not him, politics, schmolitics. It's too confusing. MXPX reference. Anyway, so that was a massive yay. Epic food, epic company, epic day. Nay was, it was just a simple date night. And the beer was shit. Actually, no, I'm not going to call it out. Anyway, but it is a big brand. Who cares about calling them out? Anyway, they start with F, and that was the type of beer. And the food we went to, we'd built it up for ages, and the food was a bit just greasy and not very nice. And that mixed with just the tap. Like, I love tap beer. Tap beer is, but it has to come from a good tap, right? And so this just tasted like flat, poor tap beer. Not going to call it a restaurant because here's another theory. Here's a side theory. I've been wanting to release this for a while, actually. If you write negative reviews, right? If you're a negative review prick, and if you go out, if you're just on your phone, whatever it is, writing your reviews after you've been out for dinner, and you don't write good reviews for good restaurants, you're a fucking piece of shit. You're a real piece of shit. And I'm sure I've done that. So I'm guilty. I've been a piece of shit, especially with airlines and stuff. Like, I would never write a positive review about an epic experience I had with an airline when I was flying quite a lot. But if I had a bad one, bah! So my new theory about how to be a nicer human is, if you go to write a negative review, I think you should write 3 positive ones about 3 places that you've been to that were good first. Like, put some positive shit out into the universe. This is a bit off to the side. But what I'm saying is, I didn't write a negative review for any of these restaurants or alcohols that I had this year because I'm not writing positive ones. Do I plan on writing positive ones? Yeah, I think so. And I do when they're friends' companies and stuff, but that's actually a good habit for me this year. Write more positive reviews on the spot for great cafes, great service, great restaurants, especially because the thriving isn't happening as much. Anyway, that was a bit of a detour. Don't know why I did a pull shot. Probably because I'm just reminiscing about that 200 runs not out. October, 7 tokens. Most of my date nights were yays, right? Just, I I should probably put that in there. Jackie might be a bit annoyed. But this one, I just moved onto a farm on the sunny coast. I worked up there for a whole month on the farm, like living in a container, just in amongst the animals. I wrote heaps about it on my blog, if you want to check it out, Benny Wellington at Medium. And Jackie came up in the middle of my month away, and I was so stoked to see her. We went out for Italian, and you know when you just eat all the bread, the Italian was delicious. I just ate everything I possibly could. And you know when you leave Italian with the love of your life, and then you see people licking ice cream, and then you go and you get 3 scoops when you should probably just get none. I did that on top of my couple of beers that were delicious, actually. So I felt so sick after that. Kind of ruined the experience. Do I blame the beers? No, but the beers didn't help, and it was a nay. So there can be surrounding circumstances, but I was stoked that I was back with Jackie, of course. Yay, that month, was with my buddy Sarah, who put on a live gig in a park that her grandfather had regenerated decades earlier, on the sunny coast as well, and got this sick musician named Felipe Baldemir. Check him out on Spotify, he's a frother. And they played just this little intimate show in his park. And we had a couple of beers. It was sick. And I'm going to just throw one more thing in, one more yay for the electrical storm on my 34th birthday. Almost balls that up on Halloween. And we were just having a couple of cheeky beers in the container, watching the most hectic electrical storm. And then this tree came down on the yoga barn on the farm. And so me and Joshy had to jump in our cars and drive around the property. It was Twister, but real. And then, trying to see if everyone in the property was okay and just making sure that more shit didn't get fucked up. And it was just a real rush. It was a real yay, and it was my birthday. Anyway, November, 10 tokens, all yays. 10 tokens. So if you think about 101 tokens across a whole year, this is the first time, or this first month, that I went over my token quota, if you were. So it's between 7 and 8 tokens a month, right? And so 10. So it's getting a bit leery towards the end of the year, but they're all yays. So, and the number one yay was a rooftop hang. No, there's 2 big ones. Rooftop hang I had with my buddy Murray and Rob. And so Rob and I had been creating, you might have seen this thing called the Beat Breath. So remotely we've been co-designing this thing that we believe is super powerful to help people become conscious breathers, and which is now more important than ever. Watch this space for more of that. So that was kind of this nice proof that you can do this stuff from a distance and you can start up a business. And Murray was a massive input in that. And so we got to finally all connect together in real life and have some beers on the rooftop. And then after that, we went to see my main man Billy Otto play live at a local venue. So, and that was one of the first live gigs that was back on. I think it was almost the first live gig. So yeah, sick, epic yay, and some delicious beers throughout. And the other one was actually, we ran an event up on the farm. This connection kept growing, planted seeds, growing. Excuse me. And we had Auntie Christine from Gubby Gubby First Australians, Indigenous Australians, come to run a what we were calling Connection on Country. And so she took us through cultural practices and a bit of the history and just heaps of radness. Had about 20 odd people turn up. And then we did this sound healing with our mate Chriso. And then we went for a surf, and then we had pizza again, but I didn't eat all the bread, and just a couple of wines. And that was just such a huge yay. And those were back to back as well. So that was actually a time when I drank twice in 2 days. But I think just like the retreat that we did, the 3 days drinking in a row, there was so much high vibe and energy that I needed to show up for hosting events, friends, conversations, and it just kind of probably lifted me above any form of hangover that I felt that it could have happened. But you definitely know you can overcook the chook if you go a bit too hard, even in those states where you've got frothy resonance around you. And finally, 10 again for December, and one nay. And I'm pretty I'm not disappointed in this, but yeah, I'd been stinging to party on New Year's Eve for the last couple of years. I'd gone to bed at 10 o'clock, and the New Year's before last, I was fuming. I was like, what am I doing at home on New Year's Eve? This is not how I roll. And so this year I made an effort to go to the sunny coast again, to go to a mini festival, which was really, really beautiful. 400 people roughly, and a bunch of music and dancing, and obviously, and yeah, it was sick. I went up with a couple of my best mates, Ryan and Amber, and joined by Mark, my chiro, who's been influential in my posture. I hope my posture's been good through this, and also friend, and probably hasn't actually, note to self. And my Oura ring, which measures my biometrics, basically was telling me, like, Benny, don't party. I'd just driven 17 hours south and 17 hours north, back again, so 30 something hours, in the space of about 6 days, 5 or 6 days. So when I got back, it was just kicking me, going, Benny, you're flat. Like, if you know anything about HRV, heart rate variability, I'm normally 100 plus, 120. When I'm feeling shit, I'm around 70 or 80. Prior to this festival, I was at 30, which means basically, and my respiratory rate was up, which means I was breathing more lungs full of air each minute, which is a big indicator, massive indicator for someone who's sick, obviously, when you got a cold. But yeah, so it really was saying, Benny, just lay down, chill. And that's what I'd normally do. I'd chill, and if I had to work, I'd do a little bit of work, but I was going to a festival, and like, fuck, I was letting that get in the way. So perhaps I should have been a little bit more reserved, but I just felt, that spring break energy, and just went hard. And not too hard, like I was in bed by 1:30, but I just had a really great time. Lots of dancing, lots of high fives, and a few drinks. Yeah, good times. But a nay, unfortunately, because it took me six to 7 days to recover, which isn't good when you're trying to friggin' run businesses and do programs and all this kind of stuff. You really just can't lose those days. Anyway, so I'll end with a yay, and I'll end with my stats, my final stats, because that's what we've all came here for, right? Probably not. But thank you for listening. This is a long video. So my final yay, I've written here, so much froth. It was community garden beers. Actually, I've just piled them all in. Community garden beers on the farm. There's a community garden where all the people who live around the farm come together on a Wednesday afternoon, and we till the garden and do all the good stuff, till the soil, do all this good stuff, nourish it. And then we had an epic feed. Everyone got together. We had some beers, had some kombuchas, whatever everyone was drinking, and it was so lovely, so awesome. Syntropic World had the final party over near me as well. Christine, the legend, through that. Epic food, really cool new humans that I met. And the other one was when I delivered this movement called Seaweed to the Syntropic crew for the Christmas party. Another Zoom party, but it was actually a good one. It was good fun. I'll probably post something for everyone this year on that. And yeah, what a fucking year. It was the least tokens I've spent. And I know a lot of people drank a lot more last year due to circumstances. I think that just proves to myself that it's not my go-to when I'm feeling shit. And actually when I'm feeling shit, actually can't remember the last time that feeling shit led me to drink. It's just not my go-to. And I think that's the main rewiring. The most important rewiring is that when the shit hits the fan, you don't reach for the booze. There's other stuff. And that's why I think, like I mentioned, breath work, meditation, they're not as, well, for the most part, they're not as fun. Some breath work, definitely more fun than drinking alcohol. Hands to the heart, or hand. But yeah, I'm just going off on a tangent here. So 67 tokens I spent, and 58 of those were yays, 9 were nays. Now here's the thing, that's 81% on the app. So I haven't had 81% since the first year I did it. I think it was 79. Each year after that, I've been kind of around the 90 mark. So does this mean I've become a shittier drinker? Not really. I just think all it means is that I've got room for improvement. So here's me thinking that, maybe I won't do tokens this year. Of course, I was always going to. But yeah, there's room for improvement. I've been speaking for half an hour to myself. I think I'm going to stop now. Final thought is, if you want to download the app, you can. It's free. It's got no fucking ads. Even if you just download it for a little while and just play with it and just see where you get to, I know it's going to be helpful for a lot of people this year as we go into more of the weirdness, especially if you're reaching for the booze in times of shit. I would suggest doing something like this. And you don't need to download my app. I don't really want the world to have more apps on their phone, to be honest. But I did build it with the mindset that I wanted people to be able to get on in 30 seconds and off in 30 seconds. Anyway, that's it. Actually, the app is down at the moment on the Android store. I apologize. This is what happens when you've got tech and people update privacy policies, and then I don't go and get that fixed. And so I'm speaking with the tech team this week. So if you get all frothy and you want to download it, unfortunately you can't. Maybe go and just send me an email, benny@101tokens.com, and I'll keep you up to date. If you're not on the mailing list, you can get on the mailing list by jumping on to 101tokens.com. I've got a fucking free workshop, which is sick on there. It's called The Wheel of Vice, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening. This is more for me than anything else. And then secondary, it's for the 101 Tokens crew, because they're the reason that I keep doing this, even in times of tech not working and etc. etc. It's not really that bad. Much love to everyone. Thanks again. And Sharkers almost gave a rock on, but we'll rock on into Sharkers.